make sure your policy is in a trust. If your policy is not in a trust, right, you've gone out of your way, you thought, for the future, you've gone to go get £1 million policy. Your kids are going to end up paying 40% on the £1 million policy.
When looking at insurances, is there a certain age that a parent can't really be insured at, or where the policy won't be as great? So in regards to, let's say someone's watching now, and let's say it's a 20-year-old, and let's say his mum or dad is 50. What would you advise that person to say to their dad or mum in regards to life insurance, and what are the things they should look out for and the things they should be trying to see in a policy?
So,
and what would you say is a cut-off point age-wise, like where you need to kind of make sure you've got insurance before this point? Yeah.
So I would say, what's the oldest age that I've seen? I think, just off the top of my head, let's give it the 80 to 85 range. But see, this is the thing: the older you are, because you got to see it as from the insurer's perspective. The insurer is promising you a significant return on your money for an eventuality.
Yeah.
Do you get it? It's even more different than travel insurance, as you mentioned. Travel insurance is not a guarantee that something will happen. It is guaranteed you're going to die.
Yeah, 100%.
And someone is putting their money on the line.
What if I'm a Highlander? You don't know. I've never told none of you that. I've been awake for like 300 years so far. You know what I mean? In the night, I've been chopping people's heads off quietly, baby. Who knows?
Baby. Wow.
If I was, I wouldn't even tell you that anyway.
But do you get what I mean? So the older you are, the more expensive it gets. The older you are, the more likely your health's going to deteriorate. Because one of the things that I think people misunderstand is they think that they're doing the insurance provider a favor, or they need your money. On a daily basis, I watch insurance providers reject people's application. And what you tend to find is at that stage, when they really need it, that's when they're willing to spend whatever. Now, in terms of what they should look out for, they should, I would say, have an advisor, because an advisor like myself has access to the whole market.
Okay.
Whereas you just might be familiar with a few insurance providers just because of who comes on TV and who doesn't. Now, all insurance providers are in competition with each other. So when you say, "Oh, I want a quote from, ABC Insurance," all other providers will give you a quote for the same amount that you want to spend, but the payouts will all be different.
Of course.
So it's in your best interest, for let's say £20 a month, you want to get the most cover.
I know, but what would you say though? But what are the things that, so in regards to age, so obviously, because you said you've seen someone get life insurance at 83, so what you're saying is that there technically isn't an age limit per se.
There is.
What would you say is the age that, okay, it's getting too late now? So let's say someone's watching this and their dad or mum hasn't got life insurance. My question is, what age would you say they should be hurrying and rushing? Obviously, they ideally get life insurance at 21, ideally.
Ideally at 18.
Yeah, or 18,
That'd be the cheapest.
But yeah, so let's say someone's child is watching this and their mum hasn't got, or dad hasn't got life insurance. What age would you say is kind of like the rushing point, as in like, mum, you're 55, you need to get it now, or mum, you're 50, you need to get it now? And in regards to the policies, what are the things that people should be looking out for? So for instance, if someone's now watching this and decides to go blind, as you said, it's best to get an advisor, but let's say they're going blind.
Yeah.
What are the things that they should be looking out for in regards to pay? Because we've heard stories of where people have had insurance and they've not been paid out. There's been something they didn't notice. So my question is that, what are the things that you need to kind of highlight and say, no, if you see that in your policy, don't go for that?
Okay, cool. So first question, what age? Yesterday. Okay. So there's no like, it's all good until 60, or it's all good until, because yesterday, like the minute you watch this video and you know that, look, as long as you know that if someone asks you, what happens if you were to pass away tomorrow? If you ain't got a good answer, that's it. Because as long as you ain't got a good answer, it's as long as that answer ain't going to be good.
Okay, yeah.
So that's that. Now, in terms of what to look out for, you want to look out for the term, because the term of your policy is important. Because the amount of people that I see, okay, you got a policy, let me review your policy. No, I'm good, I've got a great policy. I've got whole of life. Do you? Or actually, let me check. Then you check and then your policy expires at 65. But you thought that you're covered for your whole life. Then you need to know whether or not you have exclusions in your policy.
So if it expires at 65, does that mean I have to die at 64 and a day before 65?
Literally. So if you live beyond that, you're not covered. That's why my clients, minimum, they're covered to the age of 90 rather than 65. So there's that. You want to make sure your
You
policy.
said exclusion. You said something about exclusion.
Yes, exclusion. So depending on if you have underlying health conditions, when you apply, again, that's why I say do it earlier because you're more likely to be healthy.
Okay.
So when you apply, depending on what your health conditions are and what the provider deems risky, they might say, no, we'll cover you, but if, you know, because of this particular health issue, if the cause of death is that, we're not paying up.
That's because you already had that issue before.
That's because you already had that issue before you went.
Okay.
Again, that's why I say do it young, because you're going to be likely to be as healthy as possible.
So just so those who are watching, so technically, if you have an underlying health issue before taking out that policy, it's highly unlikely they'll pay you out for that underlying health issue. They may do, but it's highly unlikely they will, because let's just say, let's use the cancer for instance. Let's say someone has cancer and it's known they've had cancer before taking out that policy. If that person is to pass away from that same cancer, the likelihood of them being getting paid out is slim, because there's an exclusion, I'm assuming, if it's in the contract.
I won't say, yeah, if it states it, because they'll tell you. They're not, you know, they don't hide.
Yeah.
Like, and they have a good reputation of paying because that's their business, right? Now, in terms of what people need to also look out for, make sure your policy is in a trust. If your policy is not in a trust, right, you've gone out of your way, you fought, you know, for the future, you've gone to go get £1 million policy, your kids are going to end up paying 40% on the £1 million policy. Why would you make them pay inheritance tax on insurance?
So when you say the policy is in a trust, so okay, going back, I'm ignorant to this. So someone takes out a life insurance policy. So let's say I've taken one out for my mum.
Yeah.
My mum's got life insurance.
Yeah.
That life insurance is on my mum.
Yes.
Now, when you say the life insurance policy is in a trust, you mean that on the contract it's written out that it's paid out to the trust and not to me as an individual?
Yes.
Is that what you mean, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
But you're going to be a beneficiary of the trust anyway.
Of the trust. And if that payout goes to the trust, then there isn't a 40% tax to pay out on that life insurance policy.
Correct.
Okay, it's making sense now. I understand. Okay.
So that's how, because how they work, is literally the person. Let's say the person's mom passes away. They've grieved, all of that. They've called now. Hello, I'm one of the trustees. This is my name. They do their thing because they have a claims number.
Yeah.
Right. What's the proof of death? Hey, do you have a death certificate? Yes, I do. Send that to us. We have it. Great. What sort of account number would you like to send the money to? That's it. And it's just wired.
So who gets that 40% if it's not in a trust? Is it the government that's taking 40%?
The government's taking the 40% if it's not in a trust.
Bloody hell, this tax stuff, the government are eating.
They're eating.
But
Tax and everything.
I mean, this is a payout on someone passing away, and the government's still taking 40%.
Bro, they're
It's
mashing,
expensive
bro.
to die, bro.
They're mashing, bro.
Death is
It's
expensive.
not free to live, it's not free to die.
Wait, do you know how mad that is? Like, this is a life insurance policy that I paid, and now because I'm being paid out, I now have to, let's say it was $1 million payout, I've got to give 400k now to the
Yeah,
government.
bro. And there's still potholes in the road, bro.
Depending.
like-
Obviously, they would
You've
reduce
already
your
paid
allowance.
40%, then
So
you're
let's
gonna
say
get an
that
extra
500
40 when you die.
allowance,
Yeah.
Half on the $500,000 of
Yeah.
that extra.
Yeah.
You can pay 40% of that $500,000.
That is wild.
Imagine you've been paying taxes all your life and you have to pay taxes when you die.
That is wild.
It's mad.
That is wild. Now, so we've talked about life insurance. Okay, so basically the best time to do it is tomorrow, as in or yesterday, should I say?
Yesterday, yeah.
When looking at policies, it's important to look at the term of it, look at the exclusions. So you say those are probably the two. They probably have a main thing. We say those are the two main things in regards to inheritance tax. Now that's one thing that I've seen so many videos on inheritance tax, and it almost seems that it's not as simple as people make it out. As in, just get a trust. And then you don't have to pay any money. If that was the case, wouldn't everybody be doing that? So what are the loopholes, or what are the caveats when it comes to trying to avoid inheritance tax? So let's say, for instance, let's use Darren for instance. Let's keep to the 600 grand property. It's got 400 grand equity. Let's say, for instance, now, so you're saying that the only way to avoid paying that inheritance tax is by what? That house being passed on, gifted 7 years before. So you're saying if you gift that property, so someone who's watching this now, if their dad or mum's got a property that's got equity and it's been paid off, you would say advise them to gift that property to one of the children, or would you say gift it to the trust?
Well, they could do both. I mean, I personally would put it in a trust, and then, and of course, like in good time, so that the child will be able to benefit from that, as well as not even be liable for the property. So reason why is because it gets even more complex. God forbid you got married and divorced. If it wasn't in a trust, now your wife can come and say that she wants the property. The property's up for
See,
grabs.
now I'm interested. Now we're talking. Now I'm interested.
All
So
right.
let's talk about just in regards to. So let's talk about this whole insurance and this whole tax thing in regards to relationships. I don't know if are you a bit clued up on that side of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you just mentioned something
Go
saying.
you see his hand. When you said that, he put his hand on his knee. You see it? He put it.
Now this is my question
wedding
now.
band.
So let's say, for instance, now you mentioned something about a property being put in a trust, and it meaning that your spouse cannot get her hands on that.
Correct.
Is that correct information?
That's correct information that you
so
said.
so if I own property, okay, and I put that property in a trust, yeah, and let's say my wife is not a beneficiary of that trust, what you're saying now is that she can't get her hands on that property.
That's correct. That's a form of wealth preservation. So see it as this: you've worked hard, right, to deal with this. You've now handed it to your kid. Your kid now ends up in, and it's not even just marriage. Let's say someone's trying to press charges and sue your child. Because the property is owned by the trust, the property is not owned by that individual. It's just like how a limited company. Yeah,
Okay,
it's almost in principle how a limited company functions.
Okay.
So the property would be in the trust, meaning that it's not even up for grabs, it's not even up for discussion as to I need this property.
even if I'm the only beneficiary of it.
Yes.
Okay, this is interesting. So for you guys watching, as you can see, obviously do your due diligence and your research. But if you put something into a trust, it technically means that that property, whatever's in that trust, cannot be taken if someone comes after you. Now, is that the same in regards to HMRC? 'Cause I know that's a different conversation. So let's say, for instance, somebody's avoided paying tax or something, and then the government find out you've got property in a trust. Am I wrong in suggesting that they're coming for that though?
Well, I mean, they would try, but it'd be difficult because it's not yours. The trust owns it. So, and then do you know what I mean? It's kind of like saying, go speak to my limited company. Who is the limited company? Hey, I'm just a director in a limited company. Hey, it's
Okay.
above me. Go speak to him. Who is him? Doesn't exist.
Okay. Now, now, what other fields? So we've discussed inheritance tax. We've discussed life insurance policy. What other fields would you say that you're clued up on or that you advise on?
Wills.
Okay, so let's
Wills and
talk
the
about
impact
wills.
of wills. Now, a lot of people, again, see all these things. Yeah, a lot of people think that it's only for when you become rich, and not just something that everyone needs. Like, for example, if you're a parent and you have kids under the age of 18, you need a will yesterday, because God forbid, let's say you've got, you and your wife or you and your partner are on the M25, and for some reason both of you die right at the same time. You're there thinking that, oh, don't worry, little Timmy and whatnot, they're going to be living with grandma, or they're going to go live with auntie. No, they're going straight into the foster care system.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
now, your family's going to have to fight tooth and nail to come and rectify that.
Okay, that's a true point.
So as you're there thinking, why do I need a will? What am I going to put in there? What, my PlayStation 5 and iPhone charger? No, that's an important thing there. Another thing, lasting powers of attorney.
Okay.
That is a big one as well. A lasting power of attorney is someone that you have given authority to make either financial decisions or health decisions on your behalf. Here's why it's important. You have multiple businesses, right? God forbid you end up in a coma, and now you're...
No, not me, Darren.
Yeah, Darren. God forbid Darren ends up in a coma.
God of Abraham and Elijah. Please, yes.
God forbid Darren ends up in a coma, right? Well, his business still needs to run.
Of course.
Let's say he's got, a renewal coming up on maybe some loans or something, or even let's say a property and the mortgage is going to be up for renewal. Because he's not capable, he's going to end up moving from, let's say, a 2% interest to the variable tracker at 7-8%.
Okay.
Now, his business partners, everyone knows that Darren wouldn't agree to this,
Yeah.
but there is nothing they can do. They're just going to have to swallow that 8% interest. And then on top of that, money's being lost. And then because he doesn't have a lasting power of attorney, no one can actually make decisions on his behalf.
Okay.
The only people that will step in would be essentially social services. But social services will charge anywhere from £360 an hour plus for every hour that they're dealing with your affairs.
Okay.
So now imagine this man's in a coma for 21 days and so much business is going on. Now social services have spent let's say 100 hours.
Yeah.
By the time he wakes up, he's got a new interest rate,
And a big
he's got new debts, and he's got a massive bill.
I think the will.
360K down here.
I think
Just
the
like that.
will. I think the will thing is very important because I've been part of many funerals and I've seen them go left because of people's estate and people dipping their hands in and trying to get things. And I've seen scenarios. The worst one I've seen is where there was a woman who basically, imagine there's a dad, He's had a first family. Obviously, the family, he's no longer with that family. He's now got like a mistress, or like, call it like a girl, someone he's seen, whatever it is. But that's his partner. She's now decided to now start dipping her hands into everything because she's a partner and didn't want to give anything to the children because as far as she's concerned, I've been with him for the past 10 years. I'm in control. And where she wasn't the power of attorney, and there wasn't one, the whole thing got messy because they don't know who's
got the authority to be doing
and
what.
who takes what. So I think the will thing is very, 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 very important because I've seen
fall out.
Yeah, I've seen so many families fall out when it comes to funerals. So many, and especially when it comes to the money side of things, where, for instance, you know, it's time to pay for the funeral. Or let's say, for instance, I can give you another scenario where one guy, imagine, so there's 2 children. One guy was a child that was always around dad, 24/7, always around dad. Dad passes away, and then the other brother now is like, yo, so and he's like, bro, like, you didn't chat to dad like that. Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, but dad's got property. He's like, dad, no, like, you can't come and they don't talk anymore. And it's a genuine, they don't talk. Because the brother was like, look, for the past, I think it was like 5 or 6 years, you didn't chat to dad.
One of my brothers, he's in a similar scenario at the moment. They've been fighting for years over a property where his mum and dad lived.
Yeah.
So in the later years of life, he was the only one who was full time with them, watching after them. The moment mum died, so dad died first. The moment mum died, it just went left.
Yeah.
Like it really, really went left. But he's like, right, when everything was happening and she was sick, etc., etc., I was the one there all the time.
Yeah.
You lot went nowhere to be seen. But the moment she's died, everyone's like, rah, yeah, sell the house straight away, let's get the money. He was like, no, it's not, you get me?
Yeah.
It's not as easy as that. Like, you lot went around when man had to deal with this, deal with that, but now everyone wants.
It's a hard conversation because when you think about, you don't ever want to think about your mum or dad passing. But the reality is that we hope they pass before their children do. And if things are not put in place like life insurance, and especially a will, so you know who's in control. I think the power of attorney obviously means this is the person that's in control of the estate that makes the decisions, right?
That person can, no. So the power of attorney is someone that can make decisions on your behalf if you're incapable of doing so.
Okay.
So as long as that doesn't happen, they don't have a function.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just you saying, hey, if anything happens to me,
this is the person.
This is the person to speak to. This is the person that decides what happens with the money. This is the person that decides.
On an event of someone passing away, So that person's technically in control of the estate when that person passes away, and they make the decisions. So now, let's say, for instance, in someone's will. Now, am I right in saying that once that will is written, am I correct in saying that that is basically a contract which cannot be put left or right? So let's say, for instance, me and you are brothers, and let's say Kunle passes away, and Kunle says that, you know, 3 of the properties go to Gabriel, and you only get 1. There's no conversation after that, is it? It's like,
well, there shouldn't be, no, because the person's clearly expressed their wishes, and you know has made it clear, black and white, and then it can, you know, it's again probate as well, because the government likes to step into everything. So the furthest way to deal with all of that is to have a will and a trust. So that way you've taken the government out of it.
okay.
But the trust will take away the probate aspect of things.
So when you say, so basically this trust, so basically but what you're saying is that whenever you take out these policies should be paid out to trusts. So like even when it comes to the will, it's paid out to the trust. Now, but now this is the problem. Now let's say, and even in that trust, is it fair? Can you then? So let's say we're all beneficiaries of the trust, all 4 of us. But then you could then say that it's paid out to the trust, but paid out to this individual in the trust.
Yes.
Can that be?
So it's paid out to the trust, and then this is the percentage or portion. So
okay.
So let's say you had a 500k life insurance, right?
Yeah.
500k goes to the trust. The trust will now have trustees. Let's call that the board of directors. So if you know Darren's dad, he then has the trust. He then says, okay, Uncle Max, Uncle this, Uncle that, they're the trustees. They're the people that I trust to execute my wishes. My wishes have been stated in the trust, which is I want 50% to go to Darren, 50% to go to his brother. That's the hierarchy and the system of how it works. Now what that does, it avoids that family having to go to court and end up in probate. Probate is basically when the government decides to waste your time and says, prove to us that you know the person that's passed away wanted so and so to happen.
Okay.
So the government are cheeky enough to say, how do we know that Darren's dad didn't want to leave the property to the king? After all, we don't know how much he loves the royal family. He might love them so much.
Yeah.
and then that's just a waste of time, conversation, money. Because now you got to come and stand and prove and argue and say, no, this is what he wanted, that's not what he wanted.
Okay, now as a ballpark figure, approximately. So I know you can't give a rough number, but say we've talked about life insurance. So let's say you've got a 50-year-old, okay, who basically lives in Croydon. She has no underlying health issues. What would you say monthly is a typical cost for life insurance? I know you can't give but let's say roughly, what would you say you'd be paying? Is it like, what's the £20 a month, £50 a month? What would you say is the average?
See, that's the thing about life insurance. There's so many variables. So here are all the variables: your age, your health condition, the term, like how long you want to be covered for.
Let's say it's a 90-year term. So let's say we're doing 90-year term. I know you can't give a rough
to
number.
the age of 90.
Yeah, to the age of 90. No underlying health issues. She's 50 years of age, lives in Croydon. No underlying health issues. So she's basically a healthy woman. She goes to the gym, she exercises, she works let's say she works in recruitment or something. My question is that what roughly, because sometimes people think these things are expensive. Now, is it a case of where life insurance policies are expensive monthly? And what would you say is a rough average price that somebody would be paying for life insurance?
So here's the answer to that. It depends on how much cover you want.
Okay, so let's go to you.
Yeah. So if it was me,
you got life insurance policy.
Yeah, I have
I'm
life
assuming.
insurance, yeah.
And what do you pay monthly?
So I spend about, just on life insurance, about £30 a month.
So it's call it £30 a month for you. Okay, and how old are you now, sorry?
29.
29. So you're 29, healthy, I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
I'm healthy.
Healthy, no underlying health issues.
Yeah,
So you're
no
paying
underlying health
£30 a month. Now, what would you say roughly is meant to be your payout in an event of something happening?
High six figures. So
Okay.
let's say anywhere from 400k plus.
400k plus. Okay, so let's just say for £30 a month, okay, let's say top end maybe £50 a month, you could insure yourself. Okay, then we're talking about wills. Roughly, I know it's
So wait, so let me, because it's important. What I always tell clients, you tell me what your budget is, what you want to spend. Because there's a policy for whatever you want to spend. It's what's the determining factor is how much of a payout you're going to get. Because that's a question that we always get. Oh, so how much is it going to be? How much is it going to be? Bro, how long is a piece of... No, I'm good. How long is a piece of string? That's what you're essentially asking. How like it's like going to someone saying how much is real estate. like, what do you mean? Like, where are you buying? Are you buying in London? Are you buying in New York? Are you buying in Beijing? That's what it's like asking. So it's more a question of you're better off asking, right? Here's the variables. Here's how old I am. Here's my health situation. Here's how long I want cover for. This is what I'm willing to spend. What kind of payout would that be? Rather than, so how much is life insurance? I don't know. What do you want? A £50 million policy? Do you want
Okay,
a
no,
£1 million
I get
policy?
what you mean in that aspect, but I think we do have sort of averages for certain things to kind of determine that. But I guess for yourself, you say you're paying £30, and I just find it interesting that that's probably less than people's car insurance policies. I probably think it is, and we all seem to care about our cars more than our life. We have phone insurance, which is probably around the same price as maybe phone insurance, but £30 a month.